Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm Shane McGillicuddy.
Oh, as soon as you said it, I was like, he's going to say lizard.
No, I wasn't going to say lizard.
It's the Shane lizard. It was my best coach, Steve.
That was really good. That wasn't a bad coach.
I've learned I can do some of Nick Kroll's voices, but, I mean, Nick Kroll is a damn genius when it comes to voices. Like, did you know he was Uncle Fester in the Addams Family movie that they did recently?
I think I did. Yeah.
And he's
the Oscar Isaac one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also Gunther on Sing 1
Yes.
and 2. Yeah. Shout out to Nick Kroll.
I haven't seen Sing 2 yet.
Neither have I.
Oh.
I liked the first one.
Yeah, the first
We're
one.
talking about Sing today, you know. I can't do this.
Yeah. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, Sing. Even though, not a bad movie. I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Especially because it came out right around the same time as Disney did a movie somewhat like that.
Did they?
It was Zootopia.
Oh, I did like
Yeah.
Zootopia.
I mean, Zootopia definitely had a better message.
Sure, but I mean, Sing is just for fun, you know? Sometimes movies are for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, one for them, one for me.
Yeah, that's right. One for them, one for me. You know, the David Lowery system is the, you know.
Dude. Speaking of David Lowery, I still have been going back and forth with if I would actually really want to watch Pete's Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's got Carl Urban in it. It's got
Reprising his role as Butcher.
oh my God, can you Carl, you gotta stop calling
Disney, buddy. It's Disney.
You can't keep saying that, man. Like, look, if this wasn't Disney, I'd let you say it. And he's like, all right. Oi. And you're like, oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, welcome back, everyone.
It's gone off the rails.
Yeah, it has. But it's okay. I think this episode as a whole is going to go off the rails.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be okay.
I don't know. But welcome back, everyone. Not virtual this time. I caught it as we were doing that episode last week when we did Uncut Gems.
Gotcha. Which we didn't do. I'm
so glad we did it.
I know.
My mom lives in Austin. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that. We originally were going to have her in town, but
I was out of town so much. And
so we were just like, you know what, Mom, it's better if we do it virtually. That episode was a pain in the ass to edit.
was it? Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if anyone who listened to it, it sounded weird, because when I was making sure it sounded good on my phone, it sounded like we were all sped up.
Interesting.
Like,
are you sure you weren't on?
I might have
1.5?
accidentally done that.
Oh, 1.5.
But I looked at that and I was like, we sound sped up.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for listening. But we're not virtual anymore. We're back in
studio.
In the studio.
In the studio.
God, I would love the day where we had a studio. Like, I would love that.
Yeah.
But this week, if you didn't listen to Uncut Gems, definitely listen to it. My mom makes a lot of great points.
So she was great
about the movie. Mom, if you're listening to this episode, you were great.
Need to have her back.
But this week we are discussing the Dogma95 Movement, the first movie, the celebration, or I'm going to sound so pretentious, in its original Dutch, Festen.
I guess it wouldn't be Dutch. Dutch is Netherlands. Danish.
Danish, Festen. Oh my God, I just alienated our entire Dutch and Danish.
Oh no!
Audience.
Come back.
The celebration. This was a first time viewing for the both of us.
Yes.
And you literally just finished it.
I just finished it today. Yeah.
So let's talk about our first impressions. Man, it was so interesting. Because I told Ashley that we were doing this movie, and she was like, well, why are you so excited about it? I'm like, because this is the first time we're watching a movie that has rules, that they had to follow these rules, which of course we will dedicate a portion of the episode to talking.
I have it written down over here.
Talking about the movement of the Dogma95 movement, but I was like, that's what I'm so excited about. Because most movies we do, you know, yes, there's quote unquote rules that
or just like traditional understandings, right? I mean, they're not rules necessarily because, you know, I mean, once someone realizes you don't have to do it a certain way and do it, it becomes sort of it becomes sort of like an aha moment in film, right?
Right.
I think in this particular case, it's sort of like the anti-studio film. They are deliberately trying to make a movie that is unlike anything that the studios are making.
Yeah. Which again, we will definitely, because I definitely want to talk about that whole movement.
Yeah.
But so, what were your first impressions, man?
I had seen,
since this was your pick.
Yeah, I had seen and heard about it in a documentary called Side by Side. It is a documentary about the entrance of digital filmmaking into movie making in general, right? So the start and where it is now, right? And the evolution of digital filmmaking. And this is one of the first movies they talked about in early digital filmmaking. As you can tell, it does not look very good.
Which I think adds to...
It does. It feels very documentary style. Like everything just seems so real. Right?
Well, I'm hoping I'm going to blow your mind with this, but I watched a video where they kind of talked about it. The movie feels very home movie.
Yeah.
And then with the subject matter makes it much more haunting.
That's true. Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But
as if someone were just there to film the party.
The party, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and same thing, man. You told me about the movie, and I remember when you told me that it was getting a Criterion release, you were excited.
I was very excited. Yeah.
And doing the podcast for 3 years, I've slowly started okay, if Jeremy's really excited about it, it's got to be a good movie. Granted, of course, there are some movies that you're excited about that I'm like, not for me.
Well,
but something about this one, I was just like, okay, he's really riled up about it. Let's look into it. And I remember getting on the Criterion website and reading their little synopsis, and I was like, okay. But of course, the big sell for me, of course, was the packaging, which Jeremy did show, but I may actually dedicate a little snippet that I may plug in right here. I really hope Future Rain actually does that and doesn't leave me looking like a douchebag right now. But the packaging was so cool, and I was like, all right, if Jeremy's really fired up about this movie, I love the packaging, let's just get it. Yeah. And I'm really glad I did, dude. Yeah. It was so cool.
I mean, it's incredible to watch a movie just be so bare bones.
Yeah.
Right?
Very almost kind of indie. Really.
I mean, this is as indie as it gets.
Yeah. So, with that being said, would you like to give our listeners sort of a rundown of the movie? A little synopsis.
Sure. A family comes into town to this sort of hotel, I guess.
Yeah, everywhere I read it,
it's a lodge.
It's a hotel that they own.
Right. To celebrate their father's, or the patriarch, I guess you could call it, the father's 60th birthday. As people come in, and as we get a lot of dialogue exposition, we realize that 3 of the siblings are there. There was originally 4. One of the sisters has died, right? And there are some tensions between the siblings. There are tensions within each sibling and their spouse, in Michael's case, of course.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
And there's something up with Christian. Christian is technically our main character. Yeah. Christian is the eldest son and one half of twins, that his sister is the one that died. We later find out that she had killed herself not too long ago. And the younger sister, what is her name? Do you remember?
It's almost like Helen, but there's an extra
E
at the end. It's like Helene.
Yeah. She finds the note. Yeah. They would play this game where they would hide something and then put little clues around the place, and you would have to go find it. They call it getting warmer. Right? Finds that. I love that this is sort of their version of a Chekhov's gun situation, because we see her finding the note, and then she just immediately puts it away. We don't know what's in it until later, right?
Right.
So I'm glad we get that payoff at the end.
And if anyone doesn't know what a Chekhov's gun is, it's if a gun is introduced in the first act of a play, it must go off in the third act.
Yes, and we'll go over the rules in a minute, but a gun is forbidden. So
Yes.
Weapons, murder, that is all forbade in this movement. So this is their version of it.
I mean, it's smart.
It is smart. And we then get a big bombshell during Christian's toast to his father on his 60th birthday in front of his entire family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
That, according to Christian, his father sexually molested and raped him and his sister when they were younger.
Yeah, him and Linda.
Yeah, several times. This is like it was an ongoing thing. And so we'll get to it, but I just love how that news sort of falls on everyone because it's exactly how I reacted, which is like, what did he say?
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, what? And so he keeps trying to relay this message that his father is a monster throughout the dinner. He keeps getting either pushed away or physically ejected out of the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps coming back and keeps trying to get people to understand that his father is a terrible person. And it's not until later that once Helen reads the note, understands the note, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gives it to the waitress.
No.
Who gives it to the waitress?
She finds it because it falls.
Oh, that's right.
She finds it and gives it
That's
to
right.
Christian, and then Christian's like, "You need to read this."
Right.
And so he gives it back to Helen.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then she reads it. It is, of course, the sister's suicide note, saying why she committed suicide. One of the reasons is, of course, the main reason is her father raped her, right? And so this is proof, right? In a sense, in that it's not just Christian and,
Yeah, Christian's being dramatic.
or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Then finally things turn a little bit Christian's way where people finally start to understand that Christian's not just seeking attention, not spouting lies. He's telling the truth. His father really is horrible. And the next morning, during breakfast, the father does, in a way, confess.
Yeah.
Right? And I love the moment where, Michael sort of tells him to get out, right?
Yeah. Very, very subtle.
Yeah.
He didn't proclaim it.
Yeah.
He just said, I think you should leave so we can finish our breakfast.
Yeah. And he leaves. I love the silence and then the slow roar back to everyone talking, and then it's over, right?
Yeah.
And that's the celebration in a nutshell.
Yeah. That reveal, man.
I know.
I was like, wait, this, because everything I'd read pretty much said that this was sort of a family drama, and that, so I was like, okay, maybe, kind of along the lines of like, death at a funeral or something like that, like a family drama. But then Christian drops that and was like, oh, this is way more than a family drama. This is a full-on just drama.
Yeah.
Because this guy's a monster.
At first, when he first says that his father, raped and, sexually assaulted him and his sister, right? Mm-hmm. The way it plays to everyone in the room, I was like, wait, did he really not? Is this one of those things where
he's just like joking
or not joking, but like he says it out loud, but then later he had said it in his head and he didn't really say it out loud. And we cut back to the moment, right? Because no one was reacting to it, right? But of course, neither was I, right? It's sort of like, wait, did he
really?
That's not, because how he said it was so matter of fact, right? And how he said it was sort of the flow of this quasi toast he was giving just to do this, right? He wasn't giving a toast and then realized, oh,
by the way,
I can out him right now. No, that was the whole purpose, right? But
almost like he'd been preparing it,
yes,
like this,
and it seemed like he was, right?
Yeah,
like it was gonna be today, right? Where he would get all of these people in a room to realize that his father is a monster, and so that's when I was like, well, maybe I didn't read it right. Number one.
Yeah, we should mention, of course, this movie is Danish, so they are speaking
the language they speak in Denmark.
Yeah, with subtitles, which of course, English subtitles are sometimes mistranslated accidentally.
Well, I mean, Criterion would never do that. I'm saying
that's true.
I'm saying maybe it was like
there's no way.
Well, and I was so nervous and worried when the movie started because people were talking so fast. And I was like, oh man, I can't even look away. Like, I don't have time to look down or anything. Like, I have to, or even look at what's going on. Like, I have to keep reading because they're talking so much.
I would say, kind of necessarily a sidebar, but like, if you're going to get into watching foreign films, maybe not start with this one. Maybe start with one like, I would say Parasite, where things aren't necessarily drawn out, but you have time to take in what's happening in the scene and read. Yeah, because the same. Because usually sometimes I will look away just for a second and then I'll look back. But yeah, they were going. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, oh. And I actually like to lay down, get comfortable. But yeah, I sat up and was like,
okay, I got it.
All right.
Right. And so if you're like, if you're faster reading, like, it's probably not that big of a deal, but I'm not. And so.
Well, and and also we have to take in the scene as well. We have to understand what's happening, the context to what is being said. So yeah, it was.
And so I was like, maybe I misread it. But I don't think I did.
Did you rewind it or just let it play out?
Because it was just a split second. Maybe I misread it, but I don't think I did. Right.
Well, then of course, the movie doubles down on it very quickly.
Yeah.
We get the reassurance from the head cook who grew up with Christian. Like, no, because Christian starts to doubt. Maybe I am misremembering, and
right.
And he's like, "No, I've been waiting for you to."
To use a modern-ish term, they're gaslighting him a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
a lot. Yeah, because even his dad is like, my memory's not what it used to be. Like, are you sure?
Oh yeah, they're really digging in on him.
Yeah, really gaslighting.
Yeah, big time.
But the cook is like, "No, I've been waiting for you."
Yeah.
To say this.
It's like you can't give up, right? Mm-hmm. You have to see this through to the end, basically, is what the cook is saying.
Yeah.
And to where even he gets like the wait staff
to take everyone's keys.
So they can't leave, right?
Yeah. Because I'm sure he felt like if they left, they would leave and kind of talk themselves out of
he would never get the chance again. Yeah. Basically. Right.
Yeah, and the movie ramps up very quickly during all of this. And I do love, and we'll get into it more, but I do love that it happens over this one scene. This one, just having dinner. All of this stuff happens. Yeah.
It's basically real time, I would assume. I mean, a lot of it seems to be in real time. I think, of course, time speeds up a little bit near the end, especially at night. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the siblings. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, Christian is our oldest. Yeah. He was a twin with Linda, who committed suicide. And then next is, we'll just call her Helen.
Yeah.
Because Helen, she's like a traveler thing. It was before, they were blogs, but I don't know really what she is.
Yeah, I don't either.
And then there's Michael, who is our youngest sibling. Jesus. And Michael, as almost sort of fitting, being the youngest, he is also the most...
Out of control.
Out of control, yeah.
I would say, to put it, if you want to give it a... compare him to another character, I would say he's worse, obviously, but... To me, anyway. But he's like Ransom in Knives Out.
Yeah. Shout out to Rian Johnson. Yeah, Ransom at least isn't this bad. Yeah, right. Yeah, he killed a couple people.
It doesn't matter. He's not as...
But yeah, he's not as racist, domestically abusive.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. And so you can tell that the siblings have sort of grown apart at some point in their lives. Because, when Michael sees Christian walking down the road, Christian, you can tell Christian's very just kind of like, oh, hey, Michael, like, yeah, it's good to see you.
I did laugh that Michael kicked his family out just so Christian could get to be in the car,
which makes no sense because there was no one in the front seat with him. His wife was in the back seat.
It's too good. It's too funny, man.
Yeah, but then when they run into Helen and Christian seem like they've maintained some sort of sibling relationship.
Yeah.
But they both seem very pensive and upset with Michael because he didn't come to, as Helen says, you couldn't come to your own sister's funeral, but you'll come to Dad's birthday.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even really give a reason. He's just like, well, I'm here now, aren't I?
I think, the reason he was there is when Michael meets his dad at the, in whatever room that was before the dinner started. They were talking business. They were talking about who's going to own the lodge.
Oh, you mean Christian? You said Michael.
Did I?
Yeah.
Never mind. You're right. But he did mention something to Michael though too.
Well, yeah, because I guess as they're showering after a very, again, shout out to our Irreversible episode, very realistic sex scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tells him like, I want to see you in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And Michael definitely wants. It's shown that he definitely wants to prove himself to their father.
Right, and that's why he's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he makes a big deal over the fact that his wife didn't pack the
shoes.
The shoes, and he freaks out about that.
Dad can't see him wearing brown shoes and white socks like that. Not happening.
And then, he races to get dressed to meet his dad in 5 minutes, but of course he sort of, I guess, misses the mark. But his dad pretty much says, like, I want you handling things tonight. If anyone's, missing a drink, make sure they've got a drink. You pretty much, he's the bouncer, I guess, for the birthday.
I mean, kind of. He's sort of making sure things run smoothly, and I think in speaking with Christian beforehand, I think maybe subconsciously the father could sense that Christian's up to something, and so getting Michael to be like, "Hey, man,
make sure
everything runs okay."
Oh, and keep your hands off of Michelle.
Yeah.
Which, as we find out later on, why?
Yeah.
But anyway, so the siblings. I love how Thomas Vinterberg wrote these siblings. Again, like, you can tell that they have grown apart, but it's almost like sort of keeping Michael at arm's length.
Yeah.
Because Helen and Christian, they seem to have some sort of familial love and are genuinely happy to see each other. But Michael, they're both kind of like. And it makes sense, especially as it's revealed that Michael is a terrible racist.
Yeah.
Very violent, as we've seen him repeatedly berate his wife verbally and then physically.
Yeah.
And then physically abuse Michelle.
Yeah.
After she, we'll just say it, he got her pregnant the last time he was at the lodge.
Yeah.
And she aborted it because she just knew.
Yeah.
That he was going to freak out.
Right.
Which he did anyway.
He did anyway, yeah. And
then as we see at the end of the movie when he beats the shit out of their dad.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
I was thrilled when people started speaking English.
For like 5 seconds?
Yeah, for 5 seconds. I was like, oh, thank God this guy speaks English.
Oh my God.
Helen's boyfriend shows up. And this is the reveal that he's a racist, right?
Yes.
Which is so odd. But maybe it's not in certain parts of Denmark, maybe. Still. I don't know. But her boyfriend's African-American and American. Or like African-American. Like he seems American, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, because as soon as he meets Michael, Michael's already like, hey, no, you can't be here. It's a private event. And then
he was like, we don't need music, like we don't need what are you talking about? He doesn't have an instrument with him. Like, again, he's assuming he's a musician.
Yeah.
Because he's black, right? Awful.
Yeah. But that's when we get he's like, because he asks him, like, oh, do you speak English? And Michael's like, oh, it's a private party. We don't need music.
Yeah.
And then Michael speaking in their native language to his sister, like,
ooh.
I'm not going to repeat it,
No,
but
no,
pretty
no,
much like, you invited this guy?
Yeah.
You know, and it's...
Replace this guy with a few epithets and, yeah.
Yeah. I do like how he takes his frustration out a little bit on the cab driver. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can leave now.
By the way, Thomas Vinterberg.
That was Thomas Vinterberg?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Cameo from the director. Well, I mean, the director couldn't have been credited, so, I mean...
So he's in there.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Okay, so like I mentioned, you know, majority of the movie takes place at this dinner.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very... I love the table layout, that it's like an H.
Uh-huh.
Like, or like an I, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, facing the door, it's like an I. Where you have a long table, one in the middle, and then another long table. And it's almost like... I mean, I can't think of the right word, but it's almost interesting that Christian and his dad are seated almost opposite each other across the table.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of drives in more of why Christian is like, you know, now is the time.
As much separation as possible, and of course to where he can speak to everyone all at once. Right? Like he's not in an area, I guess technically anywhere on the table. If you stand up, you're looking at everyone, but
yeah,
it just seems more
thematic.
Yeah.
To have him at the end of the table. Yeah. But I just find it so interesting that a good chunk of the movie happens here. You know, yes, some characters may walk off, like when Christian goes to the kitchen and did they say his name was Kim?
I don't remember.
The cook's name, you know, the cook, you know, and then, you know, like when, you know, when they tie Michael up outside.
Damn.
But, you know, it's just, I just love that. And I think you're right. It's in real time that all this is taking place. Because after the initial reveal, you know, Christian goes to the kitchen, and that's when they start to kind of gaslight him a little bit. But the cook is like, no, you gotta keep going.
Yeah.
You have to make everyone understand. Or then he announces it again. You know, I want to cheers a toast to the man that murdered my sister.
Yeah, that was good.
And then they get a Christian and his dad, and we really start to see a little bit of how monstrous his dad is, as his dad sort of threatens him. Like, you know, like, what, you know, I could do that too. I could tell people about how we had to put you in a mental institution.
Yeah.
And your mother didn't even want to see the side of you, and we had to go pick you up. But it almost seems like Christian's just kind of unfazed by this. You know, it's almost like he's like, then tell him.
Yeah.
Tell him. But it's not going to matter. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I completely understand.
Because he sits there eating, and then even Helen's boyfriend's like, hey, man, like, just get through the night.
He's very manipulative, the father. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course. And I like how we see that, right? We see it with, he doesn't like Michael, but he's buttering Michael up so he could take care of Christian if something were to happen, right?
Which Michael does.
Because he doesn't like Michael because Michael's not invited, right? Or it seems like Michael's like, you know, they took away the room he usually gets or whatever that was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the dad's like, fuck him. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the screw up of his children.
Yeah.
But he knows if he gives Michael this responsibility,
Right. Attention.
and Michael's gonna, all right, I got
it.
Like, you know, he ignores Michelle most of the dinner.
Yeah.
When Christian starts, you know, with the whole, you know, here's a toast to the man that murdered my sister, you know, that's when they eject him the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and tells him that, you know, you're way out of line. How could you say that? You know, and then going as far as to then take him out and tie him to a tree.
Yeah.
Like I get it. You know, their dad has clearly done something to them other than sexually abuse them, but something where they, you know, these two brothers, where Michael would tie up his own brother and be like, yeah, no, like, you need to cool off, tie him up outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
I know. Again, he's very manipulative and knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. The look on his face when the reveal is first presented, right, is he's guilty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But he, wants to maintain this image of, like, what? I didn't do that.
Yeah,
Like,
what are you
talking about?
It's almost as if he knew no one was going to look at him at that moment. They're all looking at Christian, so he can, give Christian a look, as if to say, like, what are you doing? Like, keep your mouth shut or something. I might be reaching, but again, the acting is so good in this also. I mean, everybody
absolutely.
is amazing. And we'll talk about the actual filmmaking here in a little bit, but that has a lot to do with how this movie works so well.
Yeah.
Anyway, who's next?
Well, I mean, I really didn't want to have to talk about Michael. But, I mean, truth be told, he has...
By the way, Thomas Vinterberg uses him a lot, that actor. He is also in The Hunt, and he's also in Another Round.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, that's another movie I really want to see.
Yeah, me too.
Shout out to Mads Mikkelsen. That's the only reason
I know,
I
Mads. Well, Matt in The Hunt. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason why I kind of want to touch on Michael is how he deals with everything. Of course, as we've been talking about, with the first few times he thinks Christian is just maybe being dramatic. But then it's when Helen reads the suicide note that he finally is like, okay, two of my oldest siblings were sexually assaulted by our own father.
Well, it's like this. So if you think about it, how he was raised, with the information we've been given, right? He's been fed false information. So he hasn't been told why Christian went to the mental institution, but he saw that, right? So he already has that information. We didn't until later, but
yeah.
As soon as he said it, he goes, well, he just needs to go back. He's crazy. He's reverted back to whatever he was like back then, right? And so we have that. We have, I assume, his parents, just telling him, well, Christian's crazy or whatever, right?
Oh, and also, thinking that Christian just up and abandoned the family because he moved to Paris.
Right. And so he's angry about that. And his dad is finally now giving him attention. Right. And so all of that put together, you can understand why he reacts the way he does and why he needs a little bit more than just hearsay when it comes to this accusation.
True. I mean, that does make sense. But it's also kind of like with everyone, it doesn't finally sink in until the suicide note is read.
And that's everybody is like, oh.
Okay. But I do think it's very interesting how Michael decides to deal with this information, which is get drunk and take it on the man that caused my siblings pain.
Of course.
But to really drive it home, pretty much telling his dad, you're never going to see your grandchildren again.
Yeah.
Which would make sense, if you did this to my siblings, what's to say you're not going to do this to my own kids?
Exactly. Right. It makes perfect sense. And especially at the very end when
his daughter
hops on his lap, he goes,
we're about to leave. Come on.
Yeah.
I
like that little detail in the story.
Yeah, that he's like, no. Now I do want to ask you this though.
Sure.
So, Christian, Helen, her boyfriend, and the waitress that Christian's in love with, they're partying. What happened? So they don't know that their brother is beating the shit out of their father outside until their mother comes in very hysterically, trying to get their attention. What was Michael trying to do? What was his end game?
I don't know.
Because
I'm not sure he thought he had one.
Because when we cut back to that after, because their mother is so hysterical, all she can say is they can't, which I wasn't getting. But then again, when you are hysterical, you kind of latch on to something. And
Yeah.
But then, when we cut back to Michael, it's almost like this is just how I perceived it. Maybe he was gonna pee on his dad or something.
Oh yeah.
Because it looked like he was going to unzip his zipper.
Yeah. It was
until Christian showed up. Was like, hey, whoa, like, no.
Yeah.
Because it's on. Because how I saw it is, Christian was like, he's already down.
Yeah.
Physically and emotionally. Like,
Yeah.
we've destroyed him. You're done. You're done. Good. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Almost. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely... That's when I saw it as well. I saw it as he was just going to piss on him.
Okay. For sure. Yeah, because I was like, what are you trying to do?
I don't think he was going to rape his dad.
No, I know.
That's not what I was going...
No,
yeah,
no, I was just like...
Now, if this were a Lars von Trier movie, absolutely.
Like, you raped my siblings? Well,
It's not even a question. Lars von Trier would be like, that's the direction it would go, right?
Like, you raped my siblings? Well, I'm going to rape you.
Because he's out of his mind.
Lars von Trier?
Yeah.
Well, obviously.
God, he's the best.
Shout out to our House of Jack buildings.
And hopefully future others. We have several tame-ish ones we could watch. There's Dancer in the Dark. There's Dogville. There's tons. It'll be fine.
Okay, so I feel like the audience understands this story of, family and secrets coming out.
I think so. Hopefully.
So let's talk about the Dogma movement.
Okay.
Because I feel I would feel like we wouldn't do this episode justice if we at least didn't dedicate some time.
Well, of course,
to talk about.
I think it's the whole reason the movie. I mean, obviously, it's the whole reason the movie is the way it is, right? Yeah. It's the reason he did break a rule, by the way.
Well, yeah, because he was one of the founders. So,
yeah,
Jeremy has in front of him their vow of chastity. Yeah. So, before he gets into it, so this movement was made by Thomas Vinterberg, who wrote and directed The Celebration, and Lars von Trier, Jeremy's favorite director. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
it was a way to, again, as you said at the top of the show, to make a movie that the studios weren't making, but was it more so to be about the movie? That's why.
I mean, yes, story is a big part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To really focus in on that and focus on the characters and focus on the narrative itself, right?
Right.
I think a lot of it also is, and especially in Lars von Trier's case, it's let's see if we can do it.
Okay.
Let's put these rules in. Let's see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Because I mentioned it last week, but the 5 Obstructions, I rewatched it the other day, and he is having Jürgen Leith make this short film he had made in the 60s 5 more times. And he keeps giving him rules to follow just to see what it looks like.
What's
and
the outcome?
Eventually it's just to, ignite creativity back in Jürgen and to, and really just to bring the spark back in Jürgen's filmmaking career, right? But, and of course, just to have this fun experiment with a buddy of his, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is each cut, and this is going to sound insane, each cut can't be more than 12 frames long. I know. So every half a second, there's a cut. That doesn't necessarily mean it cuts away from the subject, but it does stop, and it'll glitch. It looks glitchy, right?
Oh, okay.
That was one of the rules. One of the rules is you have to go to the most despicable place you can think of, but I don't want to see it. I'll see it here on your face, that you're in the most despicable place that you can think of, right? But he broke a rule, you see, and Lars was so upset that he broke a rule that he made him do it completely on his own with no rules, right? He had to think of everything on his own.
Like how to shoot it,
everything. He goes,
Wow.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. Now that you messed up that, you can either go do it again, like go back to, he filmed it in Bombay in the red light district.
Oh my God.
He goes, you can go back to Bombay and do it the way I asked, or you have to do it again with no save from me at all. And he was like, well, then I'll just do it with no save from me. I'm not going back to Bombay. And it's just, it was fun to watch Lars just have complete control, right?
Yeah.
But also revert back to the sort of dogma mindset to where if I give you these rules, these obstructions, what are you going to do to still make the movie that we want, right?
Right.
It breeds creativity. If I tell you you can't use outside lighting, what are you going to do? Right? You have to find a way around it. Right? Yeah. If I tell you you can't, you have to shoot on location and you can't bring in anything. No props, no furniture, no nothing. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
How are you going to go around it? Right? You find a place. You find a place that's already fully furnished. You rent the place out, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it is sort of subverting the studio industry and making films in the exact opposite way that they were seeing other people make films. And also, to focus more on story and on narrative, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, so Jeremy, would you like to tell the people their 10 vows of chastity?
Yes. Now, one of these had to be amended a bit, but we'll get to that. Okay. Number 1. Shooting must be done on location. Props and sets must not be brought in. If a particular prop is necessary for the story, a location must be chosen where the prop is to be found. Yeah. So, if it's not there, you can't have it, basically.
Yeah.
The sound must never be produced apart from the image or vice versa. Music must not be used unless it occurs where the scene is to be shot. So, in other words, no non-diegetic music. Diegetic only meaning if we hear music, it's happening within the story, within the shot.
Like playing on a radio.
Right.
Or
someone puts on a record, or they're watching TV, or... Right, exactly.
Oh, and to the first one, like how we did our Paranoid short film. All that stuff was at your grandparents'
We didn't bring
house.
anything in.
Yeah.
We shot a Dogma film.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
We didn't.
Because we're all three of us are credited, so that's already
already gone. But we used other lighting. We used music, right? Non-diegetic music. So yeah. Number 3, the camera must be handheld. Any movement or mobility attainable in the hand is permitted. So no tripods, no static shots. You have to hold it.
Yeah, which I love that. I love that. That's. I mean, I know we'll get more into it, but I love that the camera is constantly moving.
Whatever, we'll get to it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Here, let me let you get through this. So I'll shut.
The film must be in color. Special lighting is not acceptable. If there is too little light for exposure, the scene must be cut or single lamp be attached to the camera. Yeah. Optical work and filters are forbidden. The film must not contain superficial action. Murders, weapons, etc. must not occur. Temporal and geographical alienation is forbidden. That is to say that the film takes place here and now. Genre movies are not acceptable. The film format must be Academy 35mm, which is amended. The director must not be credited. That is all the rules. So, what I mean by amended is 35mm. For it to be handheld, and Lars von Trier said it himself in the interview with Keanu Reeves, who was the interviewer for Side by Side, said that, well, once we realized that we had already said handheld, I don't know if you've seen a 35mm film camera.
It's massive.
And heavy. And so we decided video is okay. And so digital filmmaking.
Yeah.
And so he used a tiny camcorder.
Yeah, it was like a Sony something.
Yeah. And I think he had one or two of them, and that's what they used. There you go.
Yeah. Well, and see, like, in this, again, what I said at the top of the show is what made me excited for the movie is that we had these rules in place Because I mean, yes, there are quote unquote rules that studios follow, or directors, or editors, or writers, but to actually lay down like, hey, if you want to make a movie like this, you have to follow these rules,
or else.
Yeah. As I watched a video yesterday about the movement, and officially there were 31, correct? 31 movies made officially.
Let's count them.
Oh my God. Are you really sitting and counting?
No.
It should say 31.
35.
35. Okay. But then I know that there was like a lot of directors that we were kind of talking about off mic that tried, but they were breaking rules.
Yeah.
And like this is another thing that I love is that the movie begins before it even rolls the studio. It begins with a certificate of authenticity that says Dogma 1, and it's signed by Thomas Vinterberg, Lars von Trier, and 2 other people, and proving like, yes, this is a Dogma movie. Yeah. And I thought that was so cool.
It was rad. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So going back to Paranoid.
Sure. Yeah. Let's
Paranoid and our rules. So technically, we did, in a way, do a Dogma film. It was handheld. We shot on location. But the rules we broke were we didn't use outside. Oh, no, we did use outside lighting.
We used outside lighting. It's in black and white. We're credited. You know what I mean? We use music. It's all fucked. We broke half the rules.
Could you imagine if we went back and did that, but we followed the rules?
It wouldn't be very good, but we could give it a shot.
Do you think Alex would even want to do it?
Not that in particular. We could probably do another one and try.
Yeah. That'd be tight.
So, what makes this movie so good and so unique is that handheld factor, right?
Absolutely.
So there was a moment, and they talked to the director of photography in the documentary, and he said that it became sort of the character of the film, right?
Yeah.
This handheld camera and this very intimate, small camera that they could put anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It got to where that because of the rules that had to be handheld, several of the extras would have to hold it to get certain shots during the dinner scene because they would need one at a certain point in the table.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't have to move out of the way. He would just hand it to them.
Like, here,
and they would hand it back or quick handoffs or whatever.
There's actually a moment where the actor who plays Michael accidentally hits the camera, which I loved.
Yeah.
And because he knows he's got to keep going.
Yeah.
So I think he just elbows it, and he looks back for a second, but then he just keeps going with this. Like, and I just love that, because it does give the film, again, like we said at the top of the show, this sort of like home movie feel to it, especially for the subject matter that's revealed. But it does feel like these people were hired to document this celebration.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
And I really dug that,
especially when he hits it.
Yeah, especially when he hits it. Yeah, and with how the characters interact, and of course, granted, there are moments where it's obviously not that.
Right,
like with when Helen's boyfriend shows up, like, why would a documentarian go outside and film this?
Like, it's not literally like that, but it just
feels like that. Yeah, and it just and what I love is like the surreal moments feel even heightened, like when Christian is hallucinating Linda at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
and keeping with the rules, he's using a match.
Yeah.
Or no, a lighter.
Yeah, he's using a lighter.
Using a lighter to light the scene.
Yeah.
And
which is, I mean, listen, the fact that lighter had enough exposure, right?
Yeah.
For that,
oh my God.
It was bright. But even I love that, the rules are so strict that I would imagine Lars would do something to you if you broke them. But
shows up at your door.
Yeah. But I love that even in the night scene when, or in the dusk scene when Christian is getting up off the tree and untied, it's so dark. and
Yeah.
you can barely see anything, right? All you can see is the static noise from a very
Faint.
very old, primitive movie camera, right? Or
Yeah.
video camera, a
Yeah.
camcorder.
Yeah. And, you know, and I did want to talk about that too, is, you know, as you said, because I was wondering if this was like the beginning of the digital movement.
Yes. Yes. A lot of, yes.
Because then if you go back and you look at, shout out to our Zodiac episode,
Mm-hmm.
you know, was that Fincher's first digital?
Yeah.
You know, it leaps and bounds. Like,
I know.
And it's only, that was 2007. Not even 10 years later.
I know.
Like, that's so wild to me.
I know.
Like,
It did take a while because even in 2002, with 28 Days Later,
I was talking to Alex
that
about
also looks like shit, but it's cool, right?
Well, see, and again, like what we're saying with this one feeling home movie-esque, you know, that feels more, I don't want to say found footage, but...
Right. The way they filmed it and the way they were able to use the cameras, because Danny Boyle was told, listen, you do have the option for digital. It's not going to look as good, but for the price of one camera, we can get you 5. And he goes, sign me up.
Sold. Well, then, of course, there's the whole rumor that, you know, The Room, Tommy Wiseau's masterpiece. And yes, I don't mean that ironically.
I know you don't.
That is a masterpiece. The movie's terrible, but it is a masterpiece. That should get a Criterion. Could you imagine?
No.
No. Supposedly, the rumor is that he filmed it on both film and digital. Simultaneously. I don't know how true that is, because even though that movie had an outrageous budget.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just so wild.
I should have looked at the budget of this, and I didn't do that.
I kind of skimmed over it. I think it was pretty low.
I mean, it's got to be.
It for sure, definitely things like, it feels like everything that these characters are wearing are the clothes that they literally own. Like, they didn't hire a costume designer.
No.
Or maybe they went out and bought them themselves.
Yeah, bought the tuxes, yeah.
Yeah. But man, now I did have a question for you, because I knew you'd maybe be able to maybe steer me in the right direction. Why do they have the rule of the director must not be credited?
I don't know. I think, again, it's sort of that, to me, it feels like, and I haven't looked this up, so I don't know, and I probably don't, but it wasn't in any of the stuff I read. It feels like the studio films to them rely too much on technology, too much on tricks and all that stuff, but they also were sort of vanity projects. Like, look at this shiny thing I made, and here's my name all over it, right? I think
that makes sense.
Since this is the antithesis of studio films, let's go all the way, and we're not going to put your name on it, even though it's technically on it, but but as like a producer or something, not as a director or writer.
Yeah, because that makes sense, because looking at, because I've been thinking about it a lot lately, or I say lately, the past 24 hours, thinking about like the early 2000s of those films, if it was from the same producers, they would say from the producers who brought you,
which is worthless. It means nothing. It means nothing.
It literally means nothing. But then, we would have like from the director of, or like from Scott, this is just an example, like for the Black Phone, it said from Scott Derrickson, the director of Sinister, and then Doctor Strange, which I'm like I get it, like Scott, you're really proud of that, which I love Scott Derrickson, but it's like you didn't have to, like, people have probably seen Sinister, like you could have just promoted that you were the guy who did Sinister.
Guarantee you less people have seen it than they've seen Doctor Strange, but
that's true.
I get it, and also it's a marketing tool, right?
Yeah,
which is the opposite of what this is wanting anyway.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, see, because I knew you'd get me probably steered in the right direction, because now that makes sense, that kind of like what we were talking about, that they almost wanted the movie to stand on its own. And
let me tell you this, I was thinking about this earlier also, that it feels like, I don't know if they meant it to be this way, but it's sort of a type of quasi film school. Like, if you can get through this, if you go on to make a studio film, or if you go on to make a bigger budget film, nothing will get in your way, because you won't have these rules.
Yeah.
Right? you got around this.
Imagine if you had unlimited access.
Yeah. If anything goes wrong in the production, you got it. Yeah. Because you know how to think outside the box. You know how to divert problems. You're like, oh, we don't have an extra light. That's okay. Well, I can go around that. Or, hey, these people didn't show up with the props we need. Okay,
Not a problem.
Not a problem. I've worked with this before. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
It's almost like, they're making themselves better by giving them these restrictions.
Yeah.
In the long run, I think Lars von Trier has really doubled down on a lot of this stuff with his bigger budgeted films.
I will say, even though I didn't like the house Jack built as much as you did,
I love it so much.
There were moments I really enjoyed, but
I watched it the other day.
But sitting here talking, I have been kind of thinking about some of the scenes of the movie. It does feel like he kind of took a lot, still uses a lot of these, I wouldn't say the Dogma rules to a T, but still uses some of it.
Yeah, the handheld stuff has always been his bag. Like, he loves it, right? The handheld stuff, the cutting within a shot. Does that make sense? Like, if I'm shooting you, there's going to be a cut,
like,
but it's still the same shot.
Yeah, like if my hand's up, but they cut, my hand's already back down. Yeah.
Right? Like, stuff like that he really digs, and, that's all over this film, too.
No, yeah.
There's a movie called Dogville. I know I've probably talked about it before.
Well, I think you mentioned it a second ago, but anyway.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Well, I know I mentioned the name Dogville, but actually talked about it. Dogville it's a period piece, so it's already broke a rule. But so the rule here, I'll read it verbatim. That shooting must be done on location, props and sets are not to be brought in.
Mm.
So he avoided all of that by not having one. It is sketched out on the floor. And so...
Oh, yeah, I've seen scenes of this.
And so there is still sound. So if someone knocks on a door, you'll hear it, right? But there is no door because it's just mapped out on the floor, like with squares.
Yeah, when I was looking up more about the movement, like they were showing scenes from this, and I was like, okay.
So but of course he chose to do that, right? He wants a different cinematic experience for the audience. Mm-hmm. He wants to tell a story, but he also wants it to be interesting in another way.
Now, was Dogville a Dogma movie?
No.
Oh, because it was a period piece.
And it was way after. It was a few years after it had ended.
Gotcha.
Dogma95 ended in 2002.
Oh, that was 2009.
No. Not according to this.
But doesn't it say 2009 on there? On that piece of paper you got right
this
there?
Piece of paper?
That one says 2004.
Yeah, 2004.
You said 2002.
Because I'm sorry. My bad. 2004.
Okay.
So 2004 was the last one. Cosi Ex Caso was that movie.
I think it was like a comedy.
I looked at these and I have not heard of a lot of these.
So we should talk about...
I would love a box set, by the way, Criterion.
Dude, I was just about to say, like, do you think they'll do the next one, which is The Idiots?
I would like that because I can't find that one physically anywhere. So I would like to see, and I haven't seen it. So,
but like, so I feel like we should tell people why the part of the genre, a genre movie, is so important to this because I know I had to look it up. It essentially means that they're not going to specifically make an action movie, a period piece, a drama. So like this, yes, it's classified as a drama.
Yeah.
But it feels like so much more than just a drama, you know? Because, you know, we have parts of, you know, surrealism with, you know, Christian's whole hallucination and I guess comedy.
I mean, I
didn't find any parts that were very funny.
I think drama is so broad.
Yeah,
you know,
that it's not specifically a genre.
No, I think, you know, obviously video stores and streaming services have it as a genre, but really this is just a story. This is a story of a family, right?
Yeah. But
that takes place in 1998, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
It takes place in the here and now.
Yeah, and so what I read was the final movie, by that point, the Dogma movement in itself had become a genre.
Yeah.
Which is in direct contradiction of their own rules.
Right.
So do you think Lars and Thomas were like, shit?
Maybe, but...
Or do you think that was maybe like they knew this was going to end?
They may never have intended this to be forever, right?
Yeah.
I think that... I think that they would see how long they could do it and see who they could get to try to do this and see how many they can make and whatever.
Well, and who was it you said tried but
I think
broke a rule?
Harmony Korine tried and didn't do it, couldn't do it, because of the prop issue. In this film, Chloe Sevigny had to be pregnant, and so they had to buy things for her belly, right? And it's like, damn,
They couldn't just do the whole pillow underneath her shirt.
Don't know if he even thought of that. but
I mean, I feel like maybe they did, but they're like, no.
Harmony Korine is his own sort of type of insane. Yeah.
Special kind of insane.
He's his own thing. I think that if he had tried, and he did, but if he had been a part of this, I think his career would have taken a different direction. Yeah. I think.
But I think that's what's just so interesting about this movement. It only lasted for about 9 years.
Yeah.
But the fact that it lasted that long, I'm sure Lars and Thomas were like, damn.
Hey, look at that.
Almost a decade of doing these movies?
Yeah.
And I do think it's great that they didn't want it just to be them. They wanted other people.
Anybody can do it. You just got to follow the rules.
Yeah. Which I love. Like, it definitely is a collaborative thing, you know, because I'm sure any director could have come in and been like, well, how did you do it here? Like, oh, this is how I did it, and it's just so interesting. I would love to, if Criterion did maybe not all the movies, but definitely number 2, The Idiots, which
that'd be great.
They talked a lot in that video I watched, and the story doesn't interest me at all because it does seem very offensive, but I want to see how Lars pulled it off.
So Lars is offensive. So
obviously we did a whole movie about his serial killer
in the 5 Obstructions. When he was telling Jorgen about, I want you to go to a place that you find just horrible, awful, right? And he goes, would you film a dying Ethiopian child and put the stuff over it? And like put the dialogue and narration over that from your short film. The short film was called A Perfect Human, by the way. And he goes, no, because I'm not perverse,
Oof. Saying that to the guy who's made a lot of perverse movies.
Well, yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Lars, he doesn't really have a bar. You know what I mean? Like, Lars is like, I probably would have. Would you do this? And then Jorgen said no. And he goes, okay, well, then you decide what you think is the worst place in the world and go. And it's almost like he was like, okay, well, then do it your way. It's like...
Well, if we're not going to do it my way...
Well, if you're not going to film a dying Ethiopian, I don't know what you're talking about. Because 100% he would have, right? Because because to Lars, film medium doesn't have restrictions in a specific way. Like, in the way of perversion, or if something is too offensive or too real or too this. That doesn't exist for Lars von Trier, right? And it was just funny that you had mentioned that, because Lars...
well, I mean, I've seen The House of Jack built. I've read everything about Antichrist,
yeah.
What was the one movie he did that you told me that he claims he made a music... Vox Lux, right?
No, Vox Lux is great. No, Dancer in the Dark. Dancer in the Dark is a musical, technically.
Did he not do Vox Lux?
No. You know who did? Is in the American version, one of the boys in Funny Games. No, not Michael Pitt. The one that isn't Michael Pitt.
Oh.
He directed Vox Lux. Did you know
the
that?
one with Natalie Portman and Jude
Yeah.
Law? Really?
Yeah.
It's like a rock musical, right?
It's not a musical. It's a music movie. It's about a musician.
It's about it. Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was Lars von Trier. Anyway, so Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
I love learning about new things. By the way, movementsinfilm.com basically is where I found this. It's Dogma95. This is the complete list. This is the Vow of Chastity.
Or go by the Criterion version, and the booklet is the Vow of Chastity. Granted, it's stapled right where number 8 is, but if you very carefully kind of lift up the page,
it says no genre films.
You can see it. Yeah, man, I dug it. Again, I've said it repeatedly. I loved seeing a movie that had restrictions, that was pretty much not an unspoken rule, but pretty much said, like, do it like this.
I do love the idea of this philosophy that, restrictions breeds creativity.
Yeah, because you've got to figure out some way how to do it.
I buy into that. I don't know if other filmmakers do. I think other filmmakers love the freedom to do whatever you want. I think that if you add some rules in there, I think it's fun to see what you can come up with.
Yeah, true. Like we jokingly talked about with like David Lowery. He definitely seems like the type of director who he wants his freedom. He wants the ability to do what he wants to do.
I think filmmakers, if they were to do another movement like this, I think that people would do it just to see what they could come up with, or just to challenge themselves. I don't think this is really where I want to tell this story and I want to do it this way. I think if you have something you're really passionate about, you want to do it however you want. But if you just want to try something and see if you can challenge yourself to follow these rules to a T and not break any of them, you would come up with something, and whatever. Yeah, I think really that's what the Dogma films are.
I definitely think if anyone were to revitalize it, A24 I think would be like the one I could think of the most. That would be like, hey, we're going to revitalize it, but see, they would have to remove. Well, no, this movie had a production company credited.
They did, yeah.
So Anyway,
so Rain, what's next week?
Good question. Can I see your phone? Because I know I shared you my list.
Oh yeah, totally.
I have really been trying to decide, and I haven't been thinking about it at all.
Right.
Okay, give me 2 whole seconds.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, 1.
Let us know in the comments if you've seen the celebration. Let us know if you've seen any of the Dogma, or if you've ever heard of it. Let us know if you learned anything today. Okay. I do like to pass on knowledge of film, so this is fun for me.
Okay.
Did you find it? Good, because no one's gonna fucking comment anyway, you jags.
1, 2, or 3.
Okay. Is it literally 1, 2, or 3 there?
No.
Okay.
I really went down it. 1,
3.
2. You went 3?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You're going to be excited, my man.
Oh, sweet.
So next week,
yeah,
we will be talking about Hell or High Water.
Oh, now we're talking.
I am very excited for this movie. I hate that I missed out on the Steelbook 4K, but I do have it on 4K.
Okay, good.
So that's all good. As we said in our 100th episode special, we both love Jeff Bridges.
Of course.
And of course, I really like to see Chris Pine out of his element.
Yeah.
I feel like Chris Pine kind of became sort of a action star, I guess, maybe, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, in a way. He's really a classic leading man at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I love to see him out of his element. And of course, Ben Foster.
Have we done a movie with him yet?
I don't think we have.
Ben Foster is
shout
incredible.
out to Freaks and Geeks, man, where he got his start.
Ben Foster's incredible. He's one of the greatest actors working today, and I think people don't really know him. So I think people need to find more stuff that he's in. Here's some suggestions. 310 to Yuma. He's amazing in that.
Yeah, I've seen 310 to Yuma. That's great.
He's amazing in a new film that came out a couple years ago called Galveston. That's really good. He is in Alpha Dog, which...
Oh my God. Everyone I remember in high school wouldn't shut up about that movie.
It's a good movie, man. I don't know how much it's aged, but
I'm sure
I liked it at the time.
Poorly.
Yeah, probably. And Let me think of another one real fast. I can't. So those.
Or they can watch Freaks and Geeks.
Or you know what? Hell, I war. Why not?
And of course, the other thing that makes me interested about this movie is that it takes place in West Texas.
It sure does.
Which is where we're from.
That's where we're from.
That's where we're from.
Check out, by the way, while you're doing this for the show, if you're going to watch Hell or High Water, also check out Sicario and Wind River. Taylor Sheridan is amazing. So, who wrote Hell or High Water?
Didn't he also do Yellowstone?
Yes. He also created Yellowstone.
And 1886 and
Mayor
the other
of
Easttown or something like that.
Did he do Mayor of Easttown?
Yeah.
Did he?
Pretty sure he did.
Okay. Taylor Sheridan's amazing. And also super handsome. It's not fair to be like really talented, like a really great writer, a great director.
And then be super handsome.
And also be really handsome and rugged. Yeah, it's not fair at all.
What do you want directors that look more like Richard Donner?
Yeah.
Richard Donner, who's been dead for like 40 years.
Yeah, I want him to look like... you know what? I want all directors to look like Fellowship of the Rings Peter Jackson. That's what I want him to look like.
Well, unfortunately, he's back to that look.
Is he?
Yeah, dude. He lost all the weight and then he gained it all back again.
Damn it, Peter.
Peter, take care of yourself, please. Jesus Christ. Because we're going to need you to give us your opinion on Amazon's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I need to know.
But anyway, so yeah.
Very exciting. Hell or High Water. I love it.
Yeah. So we hope everyone enjoyed the celebration, and we will see you next week for Hell or High Water.